Hey folks, it's that time of the week again. It's time for WPOV Global. I'm your host, Legend T. James Logan. With me, my two hostesses, and I don't mean that they're on an airplane or anything like that. We're talking about the hostess of the show. Hostess sounds wrong. Sorry, guys. Maybe hosts? Okay. My two co-hosts of the show. We're talking about the gentleman, Elio Canella, and At the Liberated. Guys, welcome back.
What's going on?
Glad to be back, gentlemen.
Well, you know what? This is kind of an exciting time. Not only do we have a second host joining us in At the Liberated, but we're also, tonight is officially the beginning of our second season of this show. So give ourselves a bit of a pat on the back. Elio, you hung in there for most of the year. Yep. Antoine, you joined in for a couple episodes, and now you're on for the ride. So hopefully you're going to have fun.
Much appreciated. Shout out to Barry Horowitz, by the way, speaking of pets on the back.
Yes. Which is ironic when you're going to see an article pretty soon with Barry Horowitz references. The guy's ears are going to be burning, I got to tell you, because there's...
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah, Elio has a little something special going up tomorrow, and I already pre-read it. There's a Barry Horowitz joke in there, so we're going to some kind of weird psychic link of wrestling love here.
Oh, man.
So anyways, you know what, fans? We are three guys who really actually enjoy the art of good wrestling.
Yep.
And we've watched enough wrestling that we know good wrestling and we know crap wrestling. And we also are our own people. And sometimes we don't always agree on what we think is good or crap wrestling or the way things work or don't work. And hopefully what you're going to get, as you've always gotten out of us, is our points of view about what we're seeing. It doesn't really mean it's right or wrong or whatever. I mean, you know, we're three guys with our own opinions. So let's launch it off and talk about some wrestling. Now, before I get into all this, Antoine, how was your week? Did you have a good week, buddy?
I did. Can't complain at all. How about yours?
Mine was pretty good, but, you know, I'm a man, so I will complain. Elio, how was your week, buddy?
My week was great. We had my brother up from Michigan on the weekend, and we had my dad's birthday. So, yeah, pretty good.
Well, you know what? It's been an interesting week. We've seen a lot of wrestling, some weird and some interesting stuff coming out of New Japan, which I'm going to talk about a little bit later. Okay. But let's start off this week with our poll. What was our poll, Elio? Read us the poll from last week.
All right, so let me just grab the poll here. And this week's poll asked, was Tony Schiavone's comments about AEW not being as big as WWE naive or realistic?
Okay, Antoine, what do you feel about this one? Was Tony Schiavone being naive, or was he being unrealistic?
Given that AEW has been in existence since, May 2018 and just debuted on television a few months ago, it's realistic that AEW isn't as big as WWE yet. The company is obviously still in its infant stages, whereas WWE has ruled for 40 years in the wrestling / sports entertainment business, so it's only realistic in my eyes.
Okay. What's your take on this, Elio?
Yeah, I think it's realistic. Like Ann said, AEW is still new and just started. WWE has been around since the 50s. They started out as Capital Wrestling, then they went WWF. So they've been around a long time. So, yeah, I think it's realistic for him to say that.
Now, I think the controversy here might be in the fact that Tony Schiavone is kind of like, one of these recognizable faces who's promoting the product, right? And let's face it, I don't know if any of you guys have ever had to deal with startup companies or, companies in a heavy competition with each other. You don't necessarily want somebody who's recognizable to say, yeah, we're second banana. And I think that threw a lot of people off is everybody's been like, the Khan family, the Elite. They've all been like, we're the best thing since sliced bread. We're the new wrestling world. They've been saying all this stuff. And whether they really believe that or not, it's kind of what they should be doing, right? I mean, you're right. You're a brand new company. You haven't been around for a while, and you're going up against a company that's been around for a long time. So I think it threw a lot of people off guard when he openly said, yeah, well, we're really not. And he was the first guy to be realistically say from the company, yeah, we're not really in competition yet. So interesting question. How did the fans take it? Because I'm going to say too, I believe he's being realistic too, yes. So how did the fans take it, Elio?
Okay, so 15% said he's being naive, while 85% said he's being realistic.
So that's a good barometer right there. I mean, that's not even a split decision.
And we do have a couple of comments.
Well, let's read them out, buddy. Read them out.
All right, so Andrew Teaster says, right now they aren't. Maybe in the future they will get there, and they have the names to do so, but they are nowhere near WWE yet.
Okay.
Then another comment from Chris Cohn. AEW is twice the organization that WWE is in terms of excitement and storylines.
The storyline ones might be pushing it a little bit, but okay.
That's all we were asking.
Okay, you know what, guys? All kidding aside here, okay? I want to ask you guys 100%. I'm going to ask you this question. I want you both to answer it. I'll ask you each. And I want you to answer honestly right now how you feel about this. Elio, do you see in 5 years that AEW is going to be here? And if so, is it going to be a big entity actually in competition, or will it be like Impact sort of floundering around? In your honest opinion, in your heart, right now at this moment, what do you feel?
From week to week, like some weeks the show is good, some weeks it's not great. So they're gonna have to, if they want to be around in 5 years and actually be some real competition, they're gonna have to really start putting on like great shows. So, like if they want to be actual competition for WB. Otherwise, there's going to end up being another Impact Wrestling just out there, another company out there.
Okay. Anton, how do you feel in your heart? What are you feeling, buddy? Is 5 years from now, is this a viable, honest, they're going to be a big thing, or are they just another company?
Okay, so once upon a time, I used to carry the blood-stained banner of TNA Wrestling, especially in its beginning stages, maybe going into like 2007, 2008. You know,
those were fun years.
Yes, the X Division was really the cornerstone of the organization. They were doing some things that we haven't seen before, only for TNA to take a turn for the worse. And for me, it hasn't been palatable in some years. My hope is that AEW goes the complete opposite direction of TNA. I think if TNA can survive the way they did and still be in existence with all of the garbage that they've, put out there, I believe AEW will be around for 5 years. Now, what direction that they take creatively in order to be a viable competitor to WWE is up to them. My hope is that they will do something to be a, legitimate competitor to WWE. But from what I learned with my TNA advocacy that I had once upon a time is to take things one show at a time, because things can start out well and then they can flounder. So my hope is that AEW does not, travel the same road that TNA did and finds itself floundering.
I'm going to say my answer to this question is I really wish it would. Like in my heart, I really want it to. I'm having a bit of struggles right now with the direction. Okay. The whole idea for AEW when they started was they were going to be something different. They were going to cater to the fans. They were going to give us better wrestling, more coherent storylines, and give the people what they want. However, in the short infancy of the show, they've already retread so much of the WWE's type of mentality, booking. Yes. And I mean, we complain about this all the time. They say they're going to give people what they want. People wanted Chris Stratlander 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, to take that woman's division. And instead, they beat her down so much now that who knows where she's really going to float. That's not giving the fans what they want. That's the Vince McMahon idea of he knows what I want better than I do. Tony Khan thinks he knows now what I want better than I do. How is that changing anything? And the problem here is if you're going to try and be a clone of the WWE, them dudes have got like what? We said from the 50s on. They've got like 50, 70 years of experience here. You're a billionaire too, but 70 years of experience and trying to jump in and be the new same, I don't think it works. And I don't think there's room for another WWE Light or WWE A or B or whatever you want to call it. I think the only way this really works is it really forges an identity that's its own. And there's flashes of it. There are times where we've seen it, guys, where we've seen a few things on that show where we're like, yes. But then there are times where you're kind of like, this is exactly what WWE would be doing with these same wrestlers if they had them. So,
well, it's like I said. I hope that that disbanding of the Nightmare Creative was a reset button. So, like we can only wait and see.
Fair enough. So, guys, yeah, I mean, it's pretty obvious. All three of us have high hopes, and we do enjoy AEW at times.
I enjoyed it last week. That was great last week. It was fun.
Yeah, last week was very good. Yeah. So, yes, fans, we would like you. There's three guys here telling you we love wrestling. And let's face it, Kenny Omega, the Young Bucks, Cody Rhodes. These are some really good wrestlers we're getting to see do their thing. Because we've seen before, they didn't let Cody Rhodes do what he wanted to do in the WWE. They made him Stardust and all sorts of stupid things like that. Mm-hmm. If the Young Bucks went there, they would treat them like they were just like slightly larger midgets and give them like, I don't know, a clown act or something like that, not really let them wrestle.
And some people actually forget that they actually weren't there, but they were there for a skit with Ms. Morrison in 2007.
Right, but you know what I'm getting at is...
Yeah, you can't really count that, but yeah, I get what you're saying.
So let's move into the hot topic of the week. Hot topic was this week, I want to thank you, was proposed by Ant the Elder.
I'm the Elder, really?
No, wow, I'm just looking at your great haircut that
You're
matches
older
mine.
than both of us. What's going on?
Ant the Liberated, who was at one time liberated but is now apparently the Elder. But no, Ant the Liberated proposed this question this week, and very good hot topic. Read out what you wrote down there, Elio. What is the hot topic of the week?
All right, so the hot topic of the week is with Dusty Rhodes being the father of Cody Rhodes. Should WWE somehow relinquish the rights to AEW for Dusty's name and likeness? B, maintain rights and allow AEW to use the name and likeness without any legal ramifications? Or C, remain business oriented?
Well, let's start off with Ant. Ant, you proposed this question. What's your feeling along the lines of this whole copyright issue involving WWE and Cody Rhodes?
When I think of Dusty Rhodes, I think of one that has contributed to the industry abroad. He, wasn't a wrestler where he was a big name or a dominant name with just one organization. His name became famous in NWA. He was a big name in WWE, a big name in WCW. And so giving that Dusty Rhodes is the figure that he is in the industry that we all love and follow, my feeling is that WWE should relinquish rights in a manner where more than one company can honor him and do something, to I guess, expand his legacy, if you will. Like, we already have WWE by way of NXT bringing forth the annual Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Tournament. With Cody being Dusty's son, I'm sure Cody would love to do something in AEW in honor of his dad, given that NWA has made a return by way of its weekly YouTube show Power. I'm almost certain, or at least will assume, that organization will want to do something in Dusty Rhodes' honor. So, I would hope that WWE, despite its, typical business-minded mentality, my hope is that WWE would actually share the wealth as it relates to expanding Dusty's legacy and promoting.
Fair enough. Elio, how are you feeling about this?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to say, like, when I think of Dusty Rhodes, I think of like NWA, WCW. NWA had a working relationship near the beginning with the WWE, then WWF. So I think that the company should share the name with the AEW. I mean, they've done it with other wrestlers have been recognized by other independent promotions.
Okay. I'm going to say I'm going to take the full business route here. Okay. And I say that there's no way in hell they should share that. For the simple reason is they're going to war right now. AEW is trying to claw out their piece in the sand. WWE is trying to stay up as the leader, and let's face it, they may not act like AEW scares them or is on their radar, but come on, they put NXT opposite of AEW. You know, they've made moves that are definitely warlike moves. I think they'd be foolish. I mean, yes, as a fan, and yes, marking legacies and stuff, I agree with you guys. You know, yeah, that would be awesome. But as a businessman, I think it would be really, really dumb of them to give AEW more to build on. You give them legitimacy by giving them back the names, the likenesses, the things that you built your whole company around as a mythos. There's this company comes in, AEW, who's starting from the ground up. They don't really have a mythos because all of their wrestlers are relatively young, independent guys. Yes, they've made splashes in a couple worlds, but none of them have worldwide big legacies. By opening up these copyrights and giving it to them, you're actually legitimizing AEW. You're giving them a kind of conduit into the mythos, which they would love to have. And as a businessman, that's poor business planning because they're going to start making money. See, unfortunately, in the world of business, sometimes it's better to sit on an idea so nobody makes money off it than to let your competitor make money off it. And unfortunately, that sucks. So they may sit around and use the Dusty Rhodes things or the names of certain creations of his, but in the long run, it's beneficial for them to sit on that and never use it than to let someone else use it and make money and to grow.
But pay-per-view names. They have a lot of pay-per-view names that they could use, and they're just sitting there. They don't use any of them.
That is true. That's true, because it's sort of like, have you guys ever been in that in your life where you've been in a competition with someone and you may acquire, it's like playing Monopoly. You guys have played Monopoly, right?
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so you're playing Monopoly and Elio is collecting the greens and the blues. And Ant lands on the one green and the one blue that Elio needs. But he doesn't pass them by. He doesn't go, oh, I don't need these. I'm not collecting them. No. You take them to screw over him so he doesn't put hotels on them, so he doesn't put houses on them, so he doesn't squeeze you for money. I think sometimes, sadly, that's why there's so many things at the WWE. I think they have guys who sit around and honestly brainstorm and say, what would make somebody money that we have control of? Okay, we have blah, blah, blah. That could make somebody money. We don't really have an interest in using it, but we sure in the hell ain't going to let anyone else make money off it. If we want to be the number one unquestionable wrestling company, we have to hold all the big guns. It sucks. It's mean. It's not fair, but it's the way of money in this world. And it's the way, unfortunately, I think WWE is going to keep pursuing it. I don't think they're really going to let much go at all, especially if it's going to benefit AEW. Now, I want to throw out one really quick thing here. Last week, Cody Rhodes did a conference call prior to an AEW show where he talked about, he let people just phone in and ask all kinds of questions.
Was this the one you were telling me about?
The one I referenced last week.
Okay.
One of the most important things he did reference, he actually referenced about this whole copyright thing. And what he said is a lot of the copyrights that he did get and a lot of them that he was pursuing, he said were actually for the estate of his father, which belongs to his mother, and that he gets no benefit out of any of the trademarks and copyrights that he has collected now. They all go into her estate, and she is the only one that gets any financial benefit from it.
Oh, okay.
So that kind of made me go, oh, wait a second. There here really is a guy maybe pushing really for his father's legacy much more than trying to build a company. So that for me kind of softened my stance a little bit, I kind of have to say. Yeah. I'm not going to excuse the WWE's stance on this, but it does suck. What do you guys think when I tell you that? When that's right from Cody Rhodes' mouth, what does that make you guys think? Elio, any thoughts on that? Does it change your view at all? Does it enforce your view?
No, actually, I guess makes you think maybe he's really he wants to do this for his father to keep the legacy alive.
Anton?
I mean, I still maintain my stance on it, but in thinking about the ramifications that aren't public, in reference to his mom, it you know, I would think that maybe there would be a little more sensitivity coming from WWE's end. Hopefully there will be. But on the flip side, just listening even to what you said in reference to making sure no one else profits from, you know, that type of exposure to Dusty's likeness and trademark. A prime example is the recent announcement of AEW's action figures. If Dusty Rhodes if it's access to that, why wouldn't he want to do a legend or a Hall of Famers line of wrestlers and then do so under the AEW brand? And, you know, if things work out well and the Dusty Rhodes fails, WWE would be kicking themselves in the rear, you know, because they allowed AEW to have that type of access. I'm pretty sure WWE would rather make money off of their own personal line of Dusty Rhodes action figures than allowing AEW to do so.
This is like this whole legality thing it's a very trippy, very hard thing to wrap your head around, especially considering like we grew up as wrestling fans, and we know stuff before the WWE and all the corporate stuff, when a guy could make his name in many territories and was remembered. He wasn't just that, he was a guy in Florida, and he was a guy in Stampede, and he was a guy in All Star, and, you know, I think, though, I want to point out one really interesting thing I want to throw out to you guys, okay, is despite the fact we look at the WWE as this big monolith of, like, steamrolling wrestling and all this stuff and making everything WWE, the flip side of this is they're also engraving a legacy that will last forever for certain wrestlers. I think there are a lot of wrestlers who may have just totally disappeared and never be remembered again if it hadn't been for WWE archiving, putting together packages for them, all those kind of things. Even when somebody dies, you know, a wrestler dies who's ever been in the WWE, they throw up this great little, you know, 2-minute package where they get to celebrate this person again. And I think if the WWE wasn't so vigilant with the way they gather and keep their things, I don't think we'd have that level of greatness. We might have a bunch of little tributes across the thing, but sometimes I think these giant tributes really make you stop and go, wow, who was that guy? I'm going to go look him up, because that's happened to me a few times. So interesting, really question. And fans, we're curious what you guys think about this. And, you know, we understand there's so many ways. There's the heart way of looking at this. There's the way of looking at it from the financial aspects. There's the way of legacy. There's the way of, wow, there's just so many venues here. So what do you guys think? Do you think that the Dusty Rhodes likenesses and images should be given to Cody a little more easy from WWE, or are they probably better to hold that back, and why? We're curious to hear from you all. All right. So we're going to go into our AEW look. We're going to talk like in one of our last segments about New Japan, but I just wanted to throw this out there because this is just crazy. I honestly just read this like 15 minutes before we went on air here.
Uh-oh.
New Japan has canceled 2 weeks of shows because of the coronavirus scare.
Oh.
They have canceled 8 of their events, including the opening of the New Japan Cup, for fears of people's health over the coronavirus. How crazy is that?
Wow. So now what?
Yeah, now what is exactly right. I mean, we have a little bit to talk about some cards that happened last week, but there's not going to be anything to talk about for a little while. They're kind of
preventing us from doing our job here.
Yeah, that darn virus. Now, I do know in Western Canada and in Eastern Canada, it's kind of a bit of a buzz right now, the coronavirus. What I want to know is Ant, is it a thing that's prevalent in the news in the U.S. right now for where you are? Is it something like, is it becoming a legitimate fear to people, the coronavirus?
Yeah, it is. It really is. And then especially considering how here in the nation's capital, Washington, D.C., the home of federal government organizations, you have government employees who go on international travel. And it's funny because a few days ago, my wife had mentioned to me that 2 of her colleagues have been, I guess, in a sense, banned from the office for 2 weeks because they just got back from international travel. And because of the concern of the coronavirus, they've been asked to stay away from the office at least 2 weeks and go through whatever quarantine processes are needed to ensure that, you know, they are cleared to return back to work. So it's definitely an area of concern here in the States, especially where I live. Yep.
Elio, East Coast, Canada.
Yeah,
What do you hear?
we hear the same thing. People are afraid that there have been I think 1 or 2 cases here, but yeah, it's basically the same thing. People are afraid of this.
No, it's become a big thing out here too. I mean, in Western Canada, we've had, I think, 9 cases in Vancouver alone of confirmed coronavirus. So it is happening. And it's a scary thing. And please forgive me, people. I do not remember the exact company. Maybe it was Nestle or some company that has something like quite a few, like hundreds of thousands of employees across the world, has now banned all of their has now banned their employees from international travel. So their own employees can't travel to other parts for now. Now, why are we talking about this? Well, because it's obviously weird enough that this is canceled a wrestling promotion. New Japan is not a small promotion. I mean, maybe in North America it's not the biggest thing, but in the other side of the world, this is the granddaddy of them all. It's the WWE of the other side of the world. And if it's going to shut down 8 major events for them in the next 2 weeks, that's got to make you wonder. It's got to make you a little bit fearful, you know?
Imagine if it had hit in January around Wrestle Kingdom. That would have been terrible.
Yeah, wow. That's like wiping out WrestleMania weekend. Not cool.
Right?
Not cool.
Yeah.
So, you know what? We'll finish the gloom and doom, and let's get into our AEW report of the week.
Okay.
All right, so let's pull up the AEW cards, guys. Let's go over the matches, and let's discuss what we saw of it, what we thought about it, give our point of views of everything.
Okay.
Now, this week, of course, it started off hot once again. Went right into the matches, which was kind of good. We got to see Pac. And it's so funny, because for weeks, me and Elio kept saying, is it Pac? Is it Pac? You want to say Pac because of X-Pac, right? But it is Pac.
And Tupac.
And Tupac, yeah. There's never 2-pack. Or there's a 6-pack. We got a lot of that in Canada. I don't know if you guys get that, but we got a lot of 6-packs up here. And I think I have a 4-pack. No, I do not. I have a keg. Anyhow, let's start off with the show. Okay, Pac versus Omega. First of all, Elio, what did you think of this match?
This was a good match. I thought this match fit more in the main event spot, though. But I enjoyed this match. What confused me though was the whole count-out situation. Sometimes the referee would administer the count-out. Other times they would just forget all about it. Yeah.
The AEW's referees do seem to have a very lax set of rules they're using.
It's like they make up their own rules as they move along.
Possible. Anything else to come out of there for you for that match?
The overtime. I thought like 30 minutes. Tied at 1. I thought that over the overtime when they went overtime.
Yeah.
Because they were tied at 1. It's like I thought it could like actually lead up to like a blow off match.
Okay. Ant, how did you feel about this opening match?
So, in terms of the actual match itself, high octane action packed back and forth match of the night. I've even seen some, social media buzz on it that it could be considered a match of the year candidate. It was that good match wise.
It was great.
It was. It really was. As far as everything, there were a few things that surrounded the match that confused me. For starters, again, with the acceptance of Young Bucks appearances, why did the Bucks have to corner Kenny Omega in this match? I mean, I guess later on, they wanted to show that the Bucks were there to be friends and to help, because there was a moment where Kenny Omega was on the receiving end of what is the name of that inverted suplex move that Pac had hit from the ring apron, and Omega.
Yes.
No, I'm sorry. It was when Omega got hit with the black arrow through the table, and so the Bucks had helped him into the ring. I mean, I guess that served a purpose in a sense, but for me, my antenna always goes up, because it just came off as an added Young Buck appearance when, you know, either Adam Page could have been there or Omega could have just worked the match in itself. And then the flip side of me, I was thinking to myself, okay, maybe the Bucks are there to somehow inadvertently interfere in the match, cause Omega to lose the match, and then that's where we'll get the heel turn that we discussed last week when Omega he's heading up for the Bucks. But that didn't happen. And then another thing that confused me too was Pac using the chair on Omega when it put him one in the hole. I understand you're trying to do damage to him, but if not for you hitting Omega with the chair, then there wouldn't have been a disqualification. There wouldn't have been need for the sudden death, and then, you know, Pac would have won it. So a little bit of confusion booking wise as to the things they had surrounding it, but overall I enjoyed the match.
Okay. This match it finally got to see the Kenny Omega I love so much in New Japan, because we haven't really seen that Omega that much in AEW. He seems to be more cartoony, more jokey, not so.
And we got to see the V Trigger and the One Wing Angel.
Yeah, and the Kamagoya. We got to see some really good stuff. I'm going to say this from when I look at my analysis from the Booker's point of view of this. First of all, I really think in the overall of the show, this should have been the main event, because unfortunately the other matches suffered a bit from that was so darn good to everything else kind of came off as flat, So I kind of wish they'd made that the main event. I get the idea of the Young Bucks coming out, and I was very confused. And then they had the little interview later, which we'll talk about, which made this even more confusing. Because when you watch that, you knew that was taped earlier and this was live. So why were they acting like this while they were live? That was very confusing. I get though why they did it, and bear with me from a booking standpoint. By having the Young Bucks throw Kenny back in to help him get back in at the count, and by having Pac have on his finisher maneuver, and then they stop it at the time, and then give him the overtime, and he loses. He can legitimately. It doesn't make him look bad, because it makes it seem like he actually should have won the match because he had the finisher on. The Young Bucks totally helped Kenny get in there, and they did. I mean, that was obvious that they threw him in to get him back in. The one thing too is I want to address the whole chair thing. And I think with the chair thing was a harken back to an old match between an Iron Man match. I think it was between Triple H and Mankind, where Triple H took out Mankind with the chair, took the one disqualification, and then took 2 falls after that because he had hurt him so bad. And the point was he was trying to hurt him so bad that he was trying to get multiple pins right after each other, and he was willing to give up 1 to take 2. And I think that's what the idea, but I don't think it came off. Obviously, if you guys didn't see it like that, they didn't bring it off the way I think they would want it to bring off. So, all right. But yeah, all in all, very good match. Like I said, I like that kind of stuff. It's we just don't see enough of that in good wrestling lately. And you got to admit, for a 30-minute match, it was pretty darn exciting. Sometimes Iron Man matches, I've seen probably dozens of them. And I got to tell you, at least 60% of them, there is at least 10 minutes of it where I'm like, do something. Why am I watching this? Do something. There was not a moment. I mean, I was even watching the stupid box-in-box thing because I didn't want to miss any of this. I thought this was pretty darn good. So, yeah, I'm going to have to say this was a thumbs up for me. But the thing is, like I said, it really kind of threw me it threw off the rest of the card, and I want to know what you guys think as we get into these next matches. Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. Coming up after this, we had let's see. I'm just reading over my notes really quickly. Oh yes. Okay. First of all, I talked about this morning with Elio. Is Tony Schiavone the dumbest interviewer is he the dumbest person in the world? See if I get this right, okay? Pac has shown himself to be a guy who will hit officials, who will hit anybody, who acts very psychotic, who will jump anybody, who's extremely violent, mad, and you're going to go up to him and say, hey, remember when you said you were going to win and you didn't? How do you feel like that being a loser now? Are you on your mind?
So why would you
Did
do
you
that? Right after the guy lost the match, why would you ask him how it feels like to lose after saying you would win?
Yeah, like he didn't even try and like be sympathetic or try. He was just like, so you shot your mouth off and you lost, loser. How do you feel?
Maybe it was a good thing. Maybe it was a good thing Orange Cassidy didn't come out because he took the punch that was probably meant for Schiavone.
Yeah.
I definitely was not expecting Orange Cassidy to make the save for Tony Schiavone. But yeah, make no think about it. That punch was intended for Schiavone. If not for Cassidy, then you best believe, yeah, Tony was in for a long night.
And Tony deserved it. I mean, I'm sorry. You don't do that to anybody, pal. No matter if you're right, unless you're big enough to take that punch, you don't say those words.
And it wasn't one of those inadvertently offensive questions. Tony was going for the jugular on that one.
Yeah.
Trust and believe.
Yeah. Okay, and now here's the weird part. Why in the hell did Orange Cassidy come out? Like, as far as I know, he's never even hung out with Tony Schiavone ever on any of the shows. He has really nothing to do with him, but he just comes out to take a punch to the face. I mean, good on him, but why?
And your first match, and why would you want your first match to be against Pac?
We'll get to that. We'll get to that in our preview thing. But, okay, guys, I got to say, for me, really blew me away that Pac was the guy that Orange Cassidy was the guy to come out and stand up for Tony. How about you guys?
Yeah, that was weird.
It was weird for me too, and I guess from a booking standpoint, not that I have experience in booking, this is just me being a fan as a fantasy booker. If you wanted to have Orange Cassidy on the card, maybe you could have had him, booked to face a surprise opponent at Revolution, and at that point, that's where you unveil Lance Archer or Hoyt. For those of you who may not know, Lance Hoyt was officially announced as being All Elite. So maybe they could have booked that as him facing a surprise opponent, and then Hoyt being unveiled as Pac's surprise opponent. Revolution.
That's some booking there.
I did not get the Orange Cassidy connection at all, but my hope is that when it does go down, we see more than a lazy thumb and some soft kicks to the shin, because I just don't know what the craze about Orange Cassidy is. So
yeah, we're going to get into that when we do the preview. We'll get into that. That's for sure. Okay. Okay, one last note I'm going to say here that I wrote down. Jim Ross, every second week I love him, and I feel bad people dump on him. And then the next week he says many incredibly stupid things. This week was a bad week of horrible things that he said that just made him look terrible. Do we really need to know that Orange Cassidy is freshly squeezed every time he comes out? And this week he threw in, he's without pulp, folks. He's without pulp. Oh, my Lord, JR.
Why?
It gets worse. It gets worse. In the main event, I'm going to tell you one other horrible thing that I thought was just too much.
Okay, see, that's a horrible name. Freshly squeezed Orange Cassidy. That's terrible.
Hey, it's wrestling. There's been so many bad things.
Yeah, and I guess the crowd pops enough with the freshly squeezed chants.
Yeah.
To a point where JR doesn't have to say it on a weekly basis. So JR can remove that out of his shtick or approach.
Yeah. And freshly squeezed is bad, but then throwing in he's without pulp. Come on. Anyhow, next up. The Jurassic Express versus the Inner Circle. We had here Marco Stunt, Luchasaurus, and Jungle Boy taking on. Now, are they still calling themselves Proud and Powerful or something? They don't seem to refer to them anymore as that. But
Proud and Powerful. I'm not sure. I don't hear them referring to themselves as that anymore.
We'll just say the former LAX.
Yeah.
I want to say they are on the strength of their Twitter handles, because they both started Twitter handles with Proud and Powerful. Of course, it's the distinction between Santana and Ortiz. So my guess is they're still referring to themselves as that, but you don't as much on the broadcast.
Yeah, they seem to stay away from that all of a sudden the last couple of weeks. Yeah. But so they team up with Sammy Guevara. Ant, what do you think of this match?
The match I thought was fun. I enjoyed the back and forth. I always enjoy Luchasaurus, for a guy to be that agile and that mobile at 6'5", 260 some odd pounds. To me, is impressive. I was concerned about the build towards Revolution until Sammy Guevara grabbed a loaded sock, attempted to use it, and then Darby Allin made the save. So my concern about the build towards the pay-per-view was answered or resolved at that moment. But overall, I enjoyed the match.
Okay. Elio.
Yes, the match was okay for me, but Marco Stunt is to me it seems like he's the reason they don't win many of their matches. Jurassic Express, for me, he's just there anymore.
Okay. Now, I gotta say, I like Jungle Boy. I mean, this guy really moves. I'm very surprised. He's very agile. We don't see him enough, I think. Love Luchasaurus. Okay. Santana and Ortiz. Thank goodness they're dialing back the goofiness.
Oh, especially Ortiz.
Ortiz with whatever the scratching thing and all the tiger junk he was doing. It got to the point where it was too much of a mock. It wasn't fun anymore. It was ridiculous.
Yep.
So it's nice to see him pull that back. And Sammy Guevara, he's definitely a guy who's got a great future ahead of him. I mean, he's got a lot of talent. He does a lot of stuff. And I have a problem with Marco Stunt, and only in the fact is this. I don't think that, they don't need Marco Stunt or there isn't a place for him. I just don't think there's a place for him as an active third member of a six-man team. I think he's too small. I think he's the reason they keep losing their matches.
Mm-hmm.
I think he'd be great if he was a manager or if he was a cheerleader, mascot, a mouthpiece, got in, did his one or two little moves to behind the thing for fun, whatever. But to legitimately put him in a team where you have two good wrestlers and him against three solid wrestlers, he's not up to their strength.
But
he's not up to their size.
That's almost what it looks like when they come out. He's on either Luchasaurus' shoulders or Jungle Boy's shoulders. It looks like he's playing manager role when they come out.
And I think that I think he'd be better served because you knew it. Looking at this match when they walked in, you knew there was no way in hell that that these guys were really going to lose with that. Marco Stunt was really not going to be the problem of the match. That he wasn't going to get his ass handed to him.
They throwing him around that ring a lot.
Yeah, and I mean, sure they get the win at the end, but he really takes. I don't know about you guys, but it takes it out for me when this really tiny guy is the guy who consistent. It's like Hornswoggle being on your third member of your team, or that they used to have that little Mexican horned guy, Torito or whatever.
El Torito.
They were fun. They were cool to look at, but you knew they couldn't really wrestle against big guys. So, am I wrong there, guys?
Now, let me ask you this. Do you think Marco Stunt's purpose is to serve as a legitimate wrestler, or is he more so there to serve as a prop for the opposing teams to look, I guess, in a sense, when, tossing him around and execute moves on him?
Yeah, but then aren't you really just setting yourself up as an enhancement guy, or you're making your team the jobber team because you're just there to make the other teams look good? That's my problem with him. If you're going to put him with Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus, who are awesome wrestlers who should be out there dominating and being those guys, do they really need the third guy who makes other people look good? That's what I'm saying. As a legitimate contender.
And I'm glad that you mentioned that because his presence could, deplete the value of their legitimacy as contenders. So I don't know, maybe they could revise his role and have him serve as a Bill Alfonso of sorts.
Yeah.
For this. And be that annoying manager that gets involved in matches and, proves to be a thorn in the side of whoever their opponents are. So I'm thinking maybe in a Bill Alfonso type of role for the WC.
Give him a whistle.
No, do not give him a whistle.
Oh, God.
He'll get carried away then.
All right, moving on to the next match. Best Friends versus the Butcher and the Blade. I'm going to start this one. I'm going to start off with this one, okay?
Please.
It's no secret that I'm not a very big fan of Chucky T. Okay, I do not believe he deserves to be in the AEW. I don't think he's that good of a wrestler. I think he devalues the team of best friends. I don't think he's that good. I think Trent is a much better wrestler than him, and he should find a better partner. I am really saddened by how they treat Butcher and the Blade. I mean, these guys look cool. They should be out there, maybe not winning, but they should be kicking ass every week, not made to look like fools, which they have been way too many times, been made to look like fools. And them losing this week, and as they've lost like how many times in a row now?
They give him so much to work with in that Battle Royal.
Yeah, the Battle Royal was the first time I saw them look good in a long time. And then this just pushed them down even further. So at this rate, how can you even look at them as any kind of legitimate scary? They never win. They never follow through with the beatings. They always get tricked out of a win. The Butcher and the Blade are obviously not working.
Last time we saw the Bunny was at Fighter Fest against against Leva Bates.
Ant, what do you think, man?
What's bothersome about that is Butcher and the Blade were billed as hitmen.
Yeah.
And my of a hitman or hitmen is a man or a group of men that are able to take out anybody upon call. And I guess in the wrestling sense, whether they win or lose, they still end up on top because after the match, no matter what the result is, they're going to do something to send a message to let it be known that they are hitmen. And I haven't seen anything that suggests that Butcher and Blade are hitmen outside of them taking an envelope marked Young Bucks from MJF.
Yeah.
But as far as setting that tone and, setting that precedent that says they are hitmen and they're going to take out whoever it is they have their sights on, I haven't really seen that from them yet. And that match as a whole, to me, considering the two teams and, how, solid they are as workers, the match was just bland for me. It was just, it didn't thing for me. And if I can ask, I know I may sound a little outdated or primitive in this regard, but I remember Trent once upon a time was with Rocky Romero, Roppongi Vice. How come they didn't translate over to AEW? Because, I'm looking at Chucky Taylor. I'm like, okay, who's this guy? Where's Rocky Romero? So what in the world happened to that thing?
Well, Rocky Romero is, because I follow New Japan so hard, he loves to spend more time in Japan.
Okay,
and he also doesn't compete very much. He only wrestles occasionally because he's just feeling like with his age that he kind of he did a whole thing where he sort of retired Roppongi Vice and then brought in Roppongi 3, his new team, Sho and Yo, as their manager. So he's kind of passing the torch. And Trent Beretta. It was supposed to be Trent Beretta's chance to go move on to heavyweight, and unfortunately that experiment didn't last too long in New Japan because he got hurt. And so then he ends up at AEW, and he'd been independently. Him and Chucky T had been doing this best friends hugging gimmick thing across the indies. And I'm sorry, but there are things that you see in the indies that when you see on TV, you look and you go, "That's so indie." And that whole hugging thing, that is just so indie.
Yeah,
like
I first saw Chuck Taylor in JPW.
Yeah. So so am I being unfair about Chuck Taylor? Do you guys think that I'm being a little mean here?
No, not a fan. I don't like Chuck Taylor. I've never been a fan.
I mean, I've seen worse than Chuck Taylor, but it is evident to me that Chuck carries that team.
Yeah. I was a little surprised. There was a comment of somebody said about reading your column this week, and yes, at the Liberated does in fact do a weekly column on AEW.
I saw this comment after.
And the comment had a lot of interesting things, including the guy saying that he thought that the best friends were future tag team champions.
No, what?
Yeah.
And I just sort of, after I banged my face into a wall a few times, I tried to wake up and try and understand what the hell I was reading.
No.
I do not agree with that point of view. That's somebody's point of view, fine. Maybe you see something that I don't, but I do not see best friends. I see Trent Beretta and somebody else being tag team champions,
Right.
but I don't see Trent Beretta and Chucky Taylor being. No, don't see it. Sorry. But yes, folks, this is a good time to plug. Every week there is the literary AEW point of view from At Liberated. That comes out every week. I have started a column of MLW Weekly, and we're just going to tell you guys now, the other guys at POV don't even know this, but as of tomorrow, Elio Canella will be putting out his first NXT UK weekly column. So all three of us will have a weekly column talking about one of the shows that we all get together and talk about.
And you can follow us at Wrestling POV Podcast on Facebook. You can find us on Instagram at Wrestling POV1 and on Twitter at Wrestling POV.
So see, here at WPOV Global, we're giving you visuals as well as audio to cover everything you need to know about independent wrestling.
Yep.
That is correct. Now, you know what? Let's get back into the AEW show. Now, we're coming into the third match after we had Pac versus Omega. And this is where I've started to notice this trend that all three of these matches so far have been kind of bland because the first match had so much going on, so many crazy moves, so many false finishes. It started to feel like the other matches were kind of like, nah. And here we get into a match which was pretty much the same. The four-way women's match, okay?
This match.
We've got Yuka Sakazaki.
Yep.
Big Swole.
Hey, you said
Shana, it. I know, I can't believe I said it. And Hikaru Shida. Facing each other.
Yep.
A four-way match. Elio, what did you think of this match?
For me, this match, I found it kind of boring. I mean, Sakazaki looked like she was confused during most of the match, especially that one part where Shanna, Shida, and Big Swole were doing the triple test of strength, and Sakazaki was just standing in the corner like, what do I do? Do I break it up now, or, you know?
Okay. And overall, what did you think of the match?
It's just kind of boring, just bland.
All right. And?
Gotta agree with Elio. It was a bit botchy. It was bland, and, it fell short of expectations. I've seen them all perform well individually. I know AEW's women division hasn't been anything to run home about, but in the individual matches of the four women that I've seen, they all have performed well, but for whatever reason, when they all came together in this fatal four-way, it just didn't jump off the page as I hope it would.
I gotta agree. I mean, on paper, this should have been a very interesting match. I mean, they're wrestling for the winner of this match gets to be the next contender for whoever holds the women's belt after the upcoming pay-per-view. So you'd think this would be, I don't know, more desperation, more of a work trying to go in there, and it wasn't. I gotta admit, Big Swole, man, she is a beast athletically in there. The way she kicks around, I give her that. But green and very awkward. Shanna, who I usually enjoy a lot, just didn't seem to have the heart in it this week. Yuka Sakazaki. Now, I talked about her last week, and I said I enjoyed watching her when she got her tooth knocked out and stuff. And I said I liked her look. I like some of the things about her, but man, she looked the greenest in this match in the world. There were so many times where she just kind of stood off to the corner.
Yeah, she looked lost.
Yeah, she looked like she wasn't sure what she was supposed to do in this match. And I guess the big push now will be for Hikaru Shida, and man, she is bland. And she wins the match, she becomes the number one contender, and it's basically like, yeah, so what? Either Nyla Rose or Chris Statlander is going to kill her. So what point was that? There's nothing that came out of that match that made you go, all right, the women's division is turning a corner. No, it was just a bit of a letdown there. And let's move on now to now this is the weird part. I guess okay, Antoine, why don't you go into the weigh-in? I know I read your column, and I know how you feel about this. I'd like your opinion on this, because my opinion is very different on this. Tell me what you thought about this whole weigh-in thing and the stuff that happened.
It was evident that AEW was trying to bring about a different feel in reference to, selling their main event. Usually there's a contract signing when it comes to a heavyweight championship match. AEW wanted to go the boxing / mixed martial arts route with the weigh-in. Moxley comes in and he gets on the scale. His weight is announced. Jericho comes in doing Jericho things and being a heel and, trolling the crowd and talking trash with Moxley, pretty much stalling. And so it looks like Moxley was tired of the stalling. He goes for a headbutt, splits Jericho open. The inner circle jumps him. And then we see Dustin Rhodes come out to go after his Revolution opponent, Jake Hager. We then see Darby Allin come out to attack whoever he came with his skateboard, but his skateboard is eventually broken, and the inner circle is able to turn him away. And then Jericho pretty much closed the segment out by hitting Moxley with the paradigm shift onto the scale. There would have been a lot of, I guess, voids in reference to building the pay-per-view, because that was one thing that I was looking for in this go-home show was the building of pay-per-view. While we had some decent matches, I felt like it lacked in really being a typical go-home show, especially considering this is your first pay-per-view in 3 months. You had a sufficient amount of time to build it. And I'm like, you all did well in the second and third week of the month going into the pay-per-view. And now literally the show a few days before the pay-per-view, you fall short in really building it in a manner that says, oh yeah, Evolution is a must buy.
Okay, fair enough. Elio, what was first, hold on though. Ant, the last question I want to ask. Yeah. The whole setup, in the end, did it work for you? Did the segment work for you, or did it fall flat, or was it just in mid-between?
It was okay. It didn't blow me away. Like I hoped. I mean, it was good. It did qualify as one of my goods, but it didn't blow me away. And I think maybe because there might have been a little bit too much time wasted in Jericho's, heel-like behavior with the trolling of the crowd and the time that he wasted in actually getting on the scale. Because I'm like, it's called a weigh-in. So to me, a weigh-in suggests both combatants are going to weigh in and provide their official weight. We didn't need to get Jericho's weigh-in. So,
that is true. All right, Elio.
It was.
For me, it was for me, it did not really work. For me, it was just AEW's a more creative way for these two guys to get at each other before the big match at Revolution.
Okay. I know for me, I struggled with this. I remember being back in the days where WCW and WWE or WWF at the time were on each channel at the same time. Yep. And you'd switch back and forth to see which was happening. And it started getting to the point where every week WCW would end with some kind of weird angle that just built and built, and you were hoping for something and nothing really happened, and you walked away going, well, that was a waste. I should have just kept it on WWE and watched the match that was going on the other thing,
This person comes in, then someone else comes in to tag the one who came in before them. Then another one comes in. It's like, it's WCW.
I guess the problem I had with this is, why now would they do a weigh-in? After all the other matches they've had, they've never done this. This isn't even, you know what I mean? Like, it wasn't like, where was it when Cody took on Jericho? Why wasn't there a weigh-in then? And it took forever. It kept going. And I loved when Moxley headbutted him. That looked really cool. It looked realistic. When Jake Hager and Dustin Rhodes were fighting, and they go up into the audience, and they go up into the part where there's like vendors and stuff.
Yeah,
right?
the concession stand, yeah.
Now, this is the part where I said that JR, a good announcer will build you up and make, sometimes you have to take turds and shine them to make them look like gold, right? The worst thing, though, is to start mocking things where you're kind of mocking what's going on. And then JR is like, oh, my God, not into the dipping dots. And it was just like he came off like he was just laughing at what was going on, like to him this was not even anything to take serious. Oh my God, not the top, and it's stuff like that kind of bothers me, is because this is your go home show. These guys are in a match. They're going to try and kill each other, but you're laughing at the fact they're fighting near the dots. And I think that really threw it off for me for a minute. That just made it like, oh, come on, It didn't work for me in the sense that it went on too long, and I like I said, I really think if they had moved this whole show would have benefited more had the main event been
Pete Park and Omega.
Yeah. And you know what, guys, we skipped the one thing, is that interview.
Yes.
Sit down interview with the Bucks and those guys. Yes.
So the part where they had former WCW Gary Michael Capetta come out, so announce the combatants, and Jericho trolling him and the gym about one of the reasons why WCW is no longer in business. That line saved it, but that part of the segment, but I honestly felt like Justin Roberts or Tony Schiavone could have announced the combatants to get on a scale, and it would have carried the same impact. Like I feel like Capetta really didn't do anything.
I was confused by that, like why they brought him out.
Yeah. Right.
Well, and I think you're right, Ant. I think the only reason that it was there is to get that line, and that's kind of ridiculous to bring somebody from the past so you can get in one joke. That just seems a little bit excessive. Okay, before we end this, let's talk about that interview. They had a sit-down interview where Jim Ross talks with the Young Bucks and Omega and Page about the upcoming match. Basically boils down to the Young Bucks going on, kind of making fun of Page in a way, calling him a jobber, saying they can't believe these guys actually won the belts. Meanwhile, Page making it very clear that his belt means more to him than being part of the Elite. And Kenny Omega sort of looking lost in the whole thing, just kind of going, I don't know.
And Joe was like, well, you look nervous there, Page. Why are you fidgeting? You can tell Page just didn't want to be there.
Yeah. I don't know. My prediction, of course, has always been that I think that Kenny Omega is going to turn on the Young Bucks. And I'm going to revise it. I think that Kenny Omega will turn on the Young Bucks, and that Adam Page will kind of go, fuck it, I'm in. He's not even going to – he's had enough of the Young Bucks bullshit too. He's like, yeah, I'm in. What did you guys think of this interview? Ant?
To me, it came off like a bunch of schoolyard arguing. The Young Bucks saying, well, you were a jobber before we brought you into the Bullet Club, and Page, being frustrated with the Bucks, taking it like, which is a, legitimate frustration, because every time Omega and Page, we see the Young Bucks. I mean, it's clear that, you all are out to get the tag champions bowl. You get the tag championships, but why is it you all have to be seen in every segment with Omega and Page? And I like that Page is playing up the frustration, if you will, but I feel like with all of the tension that these two teams have generated, and with every interaction that has gone on with them, and with this being the go-home show, you mean to tell me that the, peak of this interaction was Page once again getting up and storming off set? There's no physical altercation, no run-in, no melee, nothing. It's just, all right, we're a bunch of friends that are arguing, and we'll see you Saturday night.
Fell flat for you. Okay, Antoine, I got to know. Do you have a prediction of a turn this weekend? Is there going to be a turn? And if so, who?
I think there is going to be a turn. I think the Young Bucks are going to win the tag team championships as a result of Page having enough of Omega not, standing firm as to which side he's on, and Page is going to turn on Omega, causing them to lose the belts to the Bucks. That's what I think at the point.
All right. Elio, what did you think?
I like the turn that you mentioned. I love the turn that you mentioned on last week, but I just feel like Omega still hasn't made up his mind as to where his priorities are. So I think Paige has had enough of him too at this point.
Yeah, I'm sticking with Paige.
You're thinking Paige is the turn?
Yeah.
Do you know what, guys? As much as I love the Omega thing, and I'm going to stick with it, after watching that interview, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking the Young Bucks are going to turn to get their belts back and be dicks now. Because, you're a jobber, Paige. You're this. Well, and I'm like, oh, my God, these guys are acting like heels.
I can't believe, like, actually you said that. Like, you were a jobber in ROH. Like, wow.
Yeah, wow. Even though this is acting, that's got to sting a little. All right. So overall, let's rate this show on our regular school rating of A+ being 100%, A being pretty darn good, B getting there, C kind of middle of the road, D kind of sucking, E or F a failure. And what would you give this week's show?
I give the show a C. And again, I think what keeps the show at that grade, if you will, is the in-ring product. I mean, outside of the best Butcher and Blade and four-way women's tag match, I enjoyed every match that was offered. But what brings the show down and keeps it from getting the high mark that it should have gotten as a go-home show, you have the Dark Order, and they give their vignette about how they're going to, battle SCU, Revolution, and how the Exalted One, could show up. But we see no running of sorts between those two teams. Mm-hmm. The probably biggest rivalry on the card outside of Jericho and Moxley, Cody Rhodes and MJF, they're not even seen.
There was a good package, but yes, they weren't there.
It was a good package, but I'm like, the video package was great, but I just feel like the go-home show, the show before the pay-per-view, there needs to be something to elevate rivalries and draw us in as fans to make the pay-per-view a must-watch. And I felt like AEW, in a couple of areas, dropped the ball. Same thing with Nyla Rose and Chris Statlander. That's your women's title match. It's bad enough that we really didn't have much of a build for that match anyway. But with the limited time that you do have between now and Revolution, neither of them are in the building, and you don't, have them around to help elevate or build that match. So I just felt like AEW dropped the ball in a few instances where they had a chance to further build and promote the pay-per-view, and they didn't.
Okay. Elio, what are you going to give this week's show?
I'm giving this one a C. This was a middle-of-the-road show. It felt a little unbalanced this week. A match like that with Park and Omega putting at the beginning, that should have been at the end of the show. Everything in between was just all over the place.
Okay. I'm going to give it a C, and I agree with you guys. If you're going to put a match like that at the beginning of the show, then make the next matches just as exciting at least. Yeah. Which they weren't.
Although it was a better show than AEW Dark.
Anytime it's a better show than AEW Dark. That's brutal, guys.
I'm looking at the matches for AEW Dark next Tuesday night. No.
Yeah. No, it's AEW Dark. I don't even bother anymore.
We're not even going to do it. That's why I just like to compare the two shows. I just see, I'm just curious to see the matches that they have on Dark.
No, Elio.
I don't even watch it. I just read it online.
No, Elio, you're just the kind of guy who likes to lift up the Band-Aid every now and then and pour salt on someone's hand. That's the only explanation for bringing up AEW Dark. Okay?
I'm sure you're mistaken.
I'm sure I am.
I'm doing my job.
All right, guys, here we go now. Let's take a really quick look. Let's go over the lineup for the pay-per-view, give our quick takes on this, what we think, who's going to go over, who's going to win. Let's start off, of course, the announcement of Pac versus Orange Cassidy. Who wants to start this one off? Ant, do you want to start? What do you think? Who's going to win this match and why?
I'm going with Pac to win the match. I think that if you're going to have Pac, I guess, go on a losing streak, I don't think you perpetuate it with Orange Cassidy, especially a wrestler who we get to see show what he can do in the ring. Now, I haven't seen independent work prior to AEW. Maybe I'll, research that between now and Saturday night. But Cassidy, as I know him, I don't think he has enough, based on what I've seen, to, send Pac on a 2-match losing streak. My hope is that we do see some legitimate wrestling from him. But on with Pac to get the win.
All right. Elio.
Okay, I'm going with Orange Cassidy.
Okay, explain why.
Like Gan said, up to now we've only seen this quote lazy version of him, like with like just hanging around with his hands in his pocket and just like doing the kicks at his shin. So I want to see what he does in his first singles match. So that's my reason for going with Orange Cassidy.
All right. I debated back and forth about this. Like me, I always try and think of what's the Booker view of this. What's the backstage idea here? It went back and forth. In the end, I'm going to go with Pac to win, but I think we are finally going to see some legitimacy out of Orange Cassidy. I'm thinking he might be at the saturation point now where how much more – I mean, none of us get it, okay? Obviously, we're not in the age group that loves Orange Cassidy, but it's there. You hear the chants. You see the people dressed like him. You see people wearing his T-shirts. People seem to dig his goofy shit, okay? But how long can that last, really? This is a good chance that Pac can legitimize him as a wrestler. Sure, Pac will still take the win, but that whole, you still look better in a loss? I think that's what's going to happen here. I think Orange Cassidy loses, but I think he's going to come out of here looking like a legitimate wrestler. And for those of you who are wondering, he was trained by Mike Quackenbush. He has competed in Shikara for years. The guy can wrestle. He's only been doing this lazy-ass gimmick for probably the last year or so. Okay? So moving on. Here's an interesting one. Darby Allin versus Sammy Guevara. Who do you pick on this one, Elio?
I'm going with Darby Allin.
Darby Allin, and why?
Because he's the one that got taken out by Sammy Guevara with the skateboard to the throat. He just came back. He's looking for payback against Guevara.
All right. Ant?
I think I'm going to go with Allen as well, only because, in recent run-ins with Guevara, as Elio stated, Guevara has gotten the upper hand on him. I think it's time for Allen to exact revenge. And I will say this. If indeed AEW, or once AEW gets to a place where they implement a secondary singles belt like US or a television title, these are two of the guys that division should build around. I definitely see them having a future as a secondary title.
Okay. You know what, guys? I'm going to go the other way. I'm going to go with Sammy Guevara for one reason. Yes, Darby Allin is the better wrestler. In most sense, the most popular one. And, Guevara is awesome. Guevara can afford to lose here. There's no doubt about that. However, the more I think about it, Darby Allin is a hardcore wrestler. So why not have Guevara and the other members of Inner Circle cheat a win out here to later on to build up to maybe a cage match or a kind of match where Guevara can't run away or can't have outside interference. I think the money here is to build this a little longer, not to just end this now. I think the smarter money is Allin takes a questionable loss, Guevara takes the win, and this feud goes on a little bit longer and a little more dangerous. All right, Dustin Rhodes versus Jake Hager. I'm going to start off this one. I think Jake Hager has to win. If he doesn't win this match, he just looks like a big dummy who just stood around for a long time and did nothing. Dustin, come on, the guy's made. He can lose every match for the rest of his career and people are still going to love him. I don't think he loses anything by not winning this match. So I'm going to go with Jake. Ant?
Jake Hager is definitely in need of a win. Without a win, he's nothing more than a mute servant for Chris Jericho. We've seen Dustin Rhodes win. We said Dustin Rhodes can still go at the age of 53, 54 years old. We need to see something from Hager that legitimate. I mean, we know what he can do on the strength of his WWE work, but the question is, can that translate into AEW? Is he still a decent worker, or has he maybe lost a step or two as a result of, his gaps between WWE and AEW? So I want to see what he can do, and my hope is that he can get over in this one.
All right. Elio.
I'm going with Jake Hager.
All right.
I think Dustin Rhodes can afford to lose this match.
Okay, so it looks like that's a solid. All three of us picking that one. AEW Women's Champion Nyla Rose versus Chris Stratlander. Elio, who you picking here?
As much as I want to see Chris Stratlander win, I'm going to have to go with Nyla Rose. She just won the belt. I don't see them taking it off her this soon.
All right. And?
I'll have to echo Elio's words. I can't see them taking the belt off of Nyla so soon. Maybe around Double or Nothing, May-ish. But right now, she just got the belt. I can't see them taking it off of her right away.
Okay. Everyone knows I love Chris Stratlander. That's a given. However, there's a few things going into this match that I know that make it a little bit hard. First of all, why wasn't Chris Stratlander on this week's AEW? Well, she's suffering from the flu. She had to actually cancel 3 performances and this week's because of her status there. So we still don't even know if she was 100% going into this match on Saturday. It says she is, but it's the flu. Who knows? Second of all, there is the point. You guys are right. You just give the belt to Nyla Rose. Pretty rare, unless you're New Japan, that you give a belt to somebody and take it away on their first title defense. That usually doesn't happen ever. And the third thing, the one thing that bothers me the most, that conference call I talked about, referenced earlier with Cody Rhodes. Last week when he was asked about the women's division, he started saying about how there were so many great women in the women's division. And he named Nyla Rose, and he named Riho, and Britt Baker, and he named a bunch of women. You know who he didn't once say anything about, despite the fact she's been the most popular wrestler for him for a while? Not a word was said about Chris Stratlander at all. That made me go, okay, the fans love her, but obviously...
How is Britt Baker better than Chris Stratlander?
I don't know. But in the mind of Cody Rhodes, he has her on the map and not Chris. So unfortunately, I don't think this is Chris's time. I'm hoping, to be honest, this is way too soon for this. I mean, there was no build-up to this. Chris Stratlander is too much of a good wrestler to waste in this. This should have been where they had the chick who won today's match go on to fight for the pay-per-view. That would have made a little more sense. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to go with Nyla Rose. Tag team champions, Kenny Omega and Hangman Page taking on the Young Bucks. And who walks away with the belts?
As mentioned earlier, I have Page turning on Omega, thus causing the Young Bucks to win the belt.
Sounds good. Elio?
Yep. Young Bucks.
And you have Page turning on...
Yeah, and Page turning on Omega.
Okay. Now, I've been talking about the Omega turn on the Young Bucks. However, no matter what happens in this, I guarantee you the Young Bucks are going to win the belts. There is still the secondary idea that the Young Bucks turn on Page and Omega to steal those belts. Either way, the Young Bucks are coming out with the championship belt. All right, Cody versus MJF. And Cody versus MJF. Who wins this match?
I think MJF. If my memory serves me correctly, Cody is undefeated pay-per-view single matches.
Mm-hmm.
And if they are really behind MJF as being a top-tier heel with Chris Jericho, I think you have to give MJW the win.
Okay. I just want to throw, did not Cody lose to Chris Jericho on the pay-per-view for the belt?
That being touche. That being his own.
I just wanted to clarify. I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I say all that to say, with that being his only loss, I feel like Cody can suffer another loss, and I don't think it hurts too much.
Elio, who wins this match?
I'm going with Cody.
You're going with Cody? Okay. And why?
He's been wanting to get his hands on MJF. He said he was going to do anything to get his hands on MJF, and he took the 10 lashes on TV. He had the steel cage match. So he went through every one of MJF's stipulations. Finally, he gets his match, so I think he's going to get the win.
Okay. I'm going to go with MJF for the simple fact is exactly what you said. But Cody has always been willing. He's been willing to lose the belt to Chris Jericho. He's been willing to take 10 lashes. He's been willing to build other wrestlers to a top tier. I think MJF's time is coming, but I don't think it's yet. I think this is a hot feud that can go on longer. I think, once again, MJF uses some kind of maybe Wardlow or some reason to keep the win. But I think that Cody gets screwed out of the win here. And this just continues this feud hotter. And finally, the main event. Chris Jericho putting his belt up against Jon Moxley. Elio, who comes out champion here?
I'm going with Jericho.
Going with Jericho? And reason?
He's the champion. Fans just seem to love the guy. I mean, every time he comes out, they're always singing along with his entrance theme. They're always chanting Jericho, no matter how crappy he treats them. They keep cheering him.
Like an abusive boyfriend. They keep coming back. No. And who's winning this?
I have gone back and forth and I've deliberated over this match time and time again. I want to believe that it'll be Moxley because he is the, I guess, modern day Stone Cold, if you will. He's white of being the anti-hero. The crowd loves him, but how many here can stake claim to the fact that fans are singing your song as you arena? I don't know too many heels that
I was singing along with Jericho's theme on Wednesday night.
I mean, Jericho is at age 50, he's white hot right now. And I know AEW has said they don't want to do things that WWE does. I mean, earlier we saw Goldberg, become champion again at his age, beating Bray Wyatt. So, in a sense, you do have that WWE element going. But, I mean, with Jericho, there is, I guess, justification for it, especially when you have arenas singing your song every time you make an appearance. I think Jericho retains, and I say that reluctantly because I do want to see Moxley win, but Jericho retains, and I'm going to actually throw an extra caveat in there. We see Jericho do things to try to throw Moxley off, stop him from getting to where he is. This might be the spot where we see the debut of Lance Hoyt.
Okay.
Helping Jericho, in getting involved on Jericho's behalf and helping him retain the belt.
Okay. Guys, can you guess who I'm going to pick?
Oh, I know this one.
You know who I'm going to go.
I know this one.
I am going to pick Jon Moxley for the win.
Okay.
For the simple reason is this, okay? I think Chris Jericho has built himself up to such a red-hot character and property with the Inner Circle even. He doesn't need the belt anymore. He can just be an ass. And I think right now, this is the chance to give to the fans. Moxley is the hottest babyface right now. People freaking love this guy no matter what he does. So maybe it's the chance now we reward him with the belt, give him a bit of a run with it. And Jericho could still do all his crazy bullshit and all his underhanded stuff, and it doesn't really hurt him whether he's the champ or not. He could still call himself the uncrowned Le Champion. He could come out with his $1 million belt or whatever, the Inner Circle belt. I don't know, but I think the chance now is for Moxley to take the belt, and that's my prediction. All right. So you know what, guys? We got coming up this weekend, the AEW Revolution. I believe our good friend Elio is going to post something on the page soon, a little preview of the upcoming action for that. So keep your eyes on that. Keep your eyes on tomorrow for the NXT UK report from Elio. Don't forget, is it every, yours comes out every Thursday, right?
Yes, sir.
AEW, the AEW report, and every Monday, the MLW report. So hopefully we can get you guys a little up to snuff on all of the independent wrestling stuff that's hot.
Hey, TJ, can I interject real quick?
Sure, why not?
There is one match that we overlooked, but I wouldn't say it's any fault of our own because it was officially announced last night. Dark Order, Evil Uno, and Grayson versus
S. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
And I even had it on this list here.
Okay. Well, let's quickly go on that. Elio, What do you think? SU versus Evil
Dark
Order?
Order. Dark Order.
Dark Order.
As much as I hate them, I'm going with Dark Order.
Okay. Ant?
My heart says SCU, but my business mind says Dark Order, especially with the eventual unveiling of the Exalted One.
And I love how Matt Hardy has so much fun on Twitter. He with his latest one, Dear Dr. RKO.
Right.
Oh, what if it's Lance Archer who's the Exalted One? Nobody ever thought of that. I think that the Dark Order has to win. If they don't win, man, they're even worse off than Butcher and the Blade. They're even a worse joke than those guys. They have to win this.
Yep.
I think SCU has fallen into they're happy to be a really solid, fun team who puts over other teams. I think they've kind of accepting that role right now.
Mm.
And they're all older wrestlers. They've all had great careers except for Scorpio. Scorpio hasn't had as long as a run as those guys.
Sure.
But yeah, so good call. Thanks, Ant. I totally forgot about that match.
No worries.
So, guys, we're going to take a break right now. When we come back, we're going to look at MLW, NXT UK, talk a tiny bit of New Japan. And, well, Ant, thanks for joining us this week. You are always welcome to even come into the second segment with us anytime you want to play around with a little wrestling news. So thank you for all your things this week, and I look forward to reading your column and Elio's column next week.
Thank you once again for having me, gentlemen. I look forward to reading your columns as well as eventually jumping in to discuss other promotions outside of AEW. I'll definitely let you know when we can bring that to fruition.
Excellent. All right, so fans, let's take a quick break. Hey, Global Wrestling fans, welcome back from our break. Hey, Elio.
Yes, sir.
Did you know that you could get some pretty cool swag involving wrestling POV?
I heard about that.
Yes, there are four cool designs of t-shirts that you can get from Pro Wrestling Tees that are all about Wrestling POV podcast.
Very cool.
Very cool. So check them out, folks. Look up Pro Wrestling Tees / Wrestling POV. Check out our store. You're going to see the four t-shirts that are involved. Hey, we're one of the funnest podcasts out there. Get those shirts on. And you know what? You guys start buying those shirts. You start throwing in your demands. You want a global shirt? That cool-ass logo we have? Maybe you want Elio's face? I don't know why you'd want that, but maybe you want Elio's face. Hey. By all means, write in. Demand it. We're here to give you fans what you want. Another thing I want to say is, folks, we are getting on Facebook, one of my favorite, I mean, maybe I'm an old man or whatever, and I love Facebook. You don't become a legend by being young. The Facebook is, we're getting close to 5,000 subscribers, so you know what, fans, get out there, like this show, man. Come on, get your friends to like it. Get grandma, trick grandma into liking it. Trick grandpa into liking it. Get out there. Help us build the show bigger, because the more we build it bigger, the more we can do, the more houses we can reach, the more things we can do, the more we're there for you fans. Mm-hmm. And before we get started into the second half of our show, let's also talk about Wrestling POV. Wrestling POV is our sister show, which can be found on the same great networks that you'll find this show on. And those networks include iTunes, iHeartRadio, Podbean, and yes, you can even find us here on the Facebook. We're all over the place, folks. Look us up. You can listen to us in very different places, all the same quality, all the great shows. That sister show you'll find every Saturday. There are 4 hosts, and they cover everything that's WWE related. We mostly cover just the indies, the top indies at least. They cover WWE. We cover all the other big things. And they have a fun, great show. They're a foursome that they really have they'll have you in stitches while you learn a lot more about their point of views about professional wrestling. I mean, you got the point of view of a former wrestler, the point of view of a super fan, the point of view of a woman, and the point of view of a puppet. So
TJ's arch enemy.
One of my many arch enemies, I think. I'm getting arch enemies left and right.
How many do you have?
I'm eyeballing you, Elio, as an arch enemy, so don't you laugh so much. Anyhow, no. Anyhow, let's look at this week's episode of NXT UK. First of all, Elio,
Yes, sir.
what was your highlight of the show?
Okay,
NXT UK.
so my highlight of this week's show was, I can't believe I'm saying this because I've never really been a fan of this guy, but Joseph Connors versus Tyler Bate.
Yeah. You know what?
I've been saying forever, like how I'm not seeing with Joseph Connors. He's so boring, but you know what? This week, he actually showed something in this match. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. No, I'm going to have to agree. You know, we've been down on Joseph Connor because he comes across as such a dick bag. But you know what? It was a great match. First of all, let's face it. Anytime Tyler Bate is in a match, it's going to be a great match. This guy, the guy's pretty phenomenal. He really knows how to put on a show. He really knows how to wrestle. He's pretty exciting. Joseph Connor, I didn't know what to expect. And to be honest, I set the bar pretty low. He actually performed quite well. And I enjoyed it. And for me, it would have been the top match, except there was another really good match on there too. And I'm going to have to also say my highlight of the week is going to have to be Ilya Dragunov beating Joe Coffey.
Yep, and that ending was very cool. I really liked that ending where all three of them got in the ring. You thought they were all going to attack him, but instead Joe Coffey just stood over Dragunov and said debt collected, or payments collected.
Now, you know what? We were kind of been a bit down on Gallus over the last little while, especially with Joe Coffey blaming Dragunov for losing the match, saying that Dragunov owed him a debt, and he kept attacking him and calling him out and all this.
Yep.
So that when he finally lost the match, and what a great hard-hitting match, including that Moscow torpedo. Once again, did you see Ilya just throw that headbutt in there and just crack him with it? Great match. And like I said, that was it actually brought Gallus back to a lot more legitimacy in my eyes when Joe Coffey standing over him saying, you know what? Debt paid. Yep. We're done. You won, but, you know, you took a beating, I took a beating, debt paid. Really brought back Gallus a bit for me. We were hard last week about too much Gallus on one card. This brought it back. Fair enough. What was your low light of this?
Okay, first of all, Ginny.
Oh God! Jenny.
Don't give her a mic. I mean, I didn't see the point of that. She just stood up on that table or whatever and started cutting a promo or whatever. But my other lowlight, as boring as we kept seeing Joseph Connors is, Noam Dar is really boring.
Wow, Noam Dar. What the hell happened to this kid? I mean, before he came to NXT, before he came to even WWE. He was a pretty exciting wrestler that I heard lots of cool things about coming out of UK news. And then we saw him in the Cruiserweight Classic. He had so much potential. He was actually not too bad in the beginning of the 205 Live. But now he is such a boring joke.
So his match against Josh Morrell, I mean, the other guy, I enjoyed the other guy a lot more than I enjoyed Noam Dar.
Yeah, this was a case of where at the end of the match, instead of Noam Dar coming out looking dominant and whatever, this match made me want to know more about the other dude. You know, I guess I'm just sick of Noam Dar's ridiculousness. Now, apparently he's one of those. He's all flash and he can't back up his crap. So
apparently this guy's like a new guy on the roster because this is like I believe the second time we've seen him.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna have to say Noam Dar is really he's kind of in the crapper for me. Mm-hmm. Overall, this was an okay card. I mean, there wasn't, but no, you know what? I'm gonna say it actually. I gotta say the Dragunov match really did good, and Tyler Bates was exciting.
Yeah,
I'm gonna give this a B+.
Yes, I was just thinking that this was a really enjoyable show. I'm going with the B+ on this one.
All right. Next, let's move over to MLW Fusion.
Oh boy.
First of all, let's go the other way. What was one of the bad lowlights for you on the show?
King Mo versus Dr. Dang.
Oh my God. King Mo. This guy is going to give me a freaking aneurysm if I have to keep watching this. He is freaking terrible.
He is. Like, you know how they always say, oh, Kofi Kingston is just a guy playing wrestler? Mm-hmm. This guy's actually doing that, King Mo.
Yeah,
I
King
mean,
Mo.
he's terrible. Everything about him.
He comes off as really just a guy who's just out there pretending,
Yeah.
that he's put on the wrestling tights and dancing around like a jerk.
Where
No,
Kofi is actually a wrestler.
gotta admit, yeah, I can't stand this guy. I really can't. And he was almost my low light of the week, but for me, I'm gonna go with the main event. Was not really digging Ross Von Erich versus Tom Lawler.
Okay.
I think this match, it once again illustrates to me that the Von Erichs just really aren't ready for main event status yet.
Mhm.
They have a lot of work they need to do. And Lawler really didn't come off as anything all that special. And having Dominic Guarini interfere so quickly into this match, it just nobody really came out of here looking all that great.
Lawler's up and down from week to week.
Yeah, like I get him and Guarini are getting these really funny little segments. They're doing their little whatever. What do they call that thing? Filthy does Dallas. And it's actually made them funnier characters that make them more interesting to watch. But I think their in-ring work right now is suffering a bit, and I'm not digging it as anything. And Lawler is not coming across as the legitimate badass we know he is.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a step back. So I'm going to have to say, this was definitely a low light for me.
Okay.
Highlight. You have a highlight of the week?
For me, it was Douglas James and Eric Stevens and the Logan Creed match. Although that name.
Logan Creed. Oh my God! How is Marvel not suing MLW? For those of you who's wondering who aren't comic book fans and wondering why comic book fans are getting really like throwing their arms up here, in the comic books, in Marvel Comics, the character named Wolverine. His real name is Logan. His arch nemesis and biggest enemy is Sabretooth, whose name is Victor Creed. Now this wrestler is calling himself Logan Creed, so I guess he's Wolverine Sabretooth, it's just a poor choice of a name. But that being said, this guy's interesting. I mean, we were just complaining last week about how boring he is as Gorgon or whatever the heck he is.
Yeah.
And now reinventing himself as Logan Creed. This guy's 7'5". Is that what they said he was? Or 7 feet. He's 7 feet tall, and he weighs like 300 pounds. I don't know. He's a pretty big boy.
And he did that crazy dive over the top rope.
Yeah. How many times do you see a 7 foot tall man doing over the rope plancha? Like, wow. He showed off pretty good. I mean, yeah, he was beating a big piece of crap named Moonshine Mantel, but he was interesting enough that I enjoyed this guy.
Any relation to Dutch Mantel?
Oh, only in only in occupation. What I really liked about this match, though, or what I really liked about this card, for me, the highlight, and it's one of those ironic things, Eric Stevens defeating Douglas James. And what's funny about this, why I say ironic, is Eric Stevens came off as like, okay, but Douglas James, despite taking a great beating, really came off as someone I want to see more of. He just showed a lot of heart, a lot of skill, a lot of determination out there. He kind of won me over. I want to see this dude wrestle more. Eric Stevens, whatever. He didn't live up to the hype they were giving him.
Eric Stevens, they've been hyping up this guy like so much, and like you know how when they hype someone up, they come out, and then you're like, is that it?
Yeah.
What's the big deal?
Yeah, like Eric Stevens was okay. He wasn't horrible, but it was like you really, for 3 weeks, flogged the crap out of this guy, gave him time. Really? And speaking about packages and these kind of hype ups, it kind of annoys me that they're still playing Killer Cross promos, considering they have one match to show us by him, one match. And then we've seen 3 weeks now of Killer Cross, and we know there will be no other matches because he signed to NXT. So
I wonder if it's going to be not this week, but the week after, because they're doing their 100th show.
I don't know when it's going to be, but I really think it's ridiculous to advertise the shit out of somebody who's only going to be there for one match and has no way of ever coming back. I think this would have been better. I'd rather have seen low-key promos or Zenshi or hell, Dominic Guarini. I mean, to see a guy that you know is not really going to be there, in a way, is advertising. So,
Yeah.
I don't think that's cool. Overall, this week's card was like, it was okay. It wasn't great. There was some problems. The Douglas James match and the Logan Creed match was pretty good. I'm going to give it a B minus.
Okay, I'm gonna go with the C on this one.
Okay.
Because it was a mixed bag here.
Okay. So, thinking about the three cards we looked at this week,
All
that
right.
means
So you can
I'm
look
guessing
at
2 points are going to go to NXT UK,
so hold on. 2 NXT UK, okay.
1 point to MLW,
Okay, and 0 to AEW.
and a goose egg to AEW.
So that puts this NXT UK has 11.
Mhm.
MLW has 7.
Mm-hmm.
And AEW's at 4.
Wow. AEW's going to start getting its shit together. Now let's move over to New Japan. I quickly wanted to touch on the new Road to Japan things that were going on. There was a couple of events. Coming out of it, there was a few interesting things. The team of the Guerrillas of Destiny losing their tag team belts to the team that I wouldn't have guessed, Tanahashi and Kota Ibushi. I didn't even know these guys tagged very much, but they're the new tag team champions.
But then when during one of the other events, I remember you had told me whoever pins the champion, they get a future title shot.
Right. So, you know what? Like they must have pinned back somewhere to get this title shot. But interesting enough, they win the belts, and then their new contenders who will be going after them come out. The Dangerous Trekkers. The Dangerous Trekkers. The team of Zack Sabre Jr. and Tai Chi. Could you find two bigger douchebags? Probably not.
You really think Tai Chi and Zack Sabre Jr. have a chance of winning?
Yeah. Yeah, I do. I honestly do. Zack Sabre Jr., as much as you can hate the guy, has a really interesting style of wrestling that.
I mean, okay, I get Zack Sabre,
fight.
but we've been like so down on Tai Chi. I mean, this whole
but Tai Chi has been crap for a long time, but the last 4 months he's kind of emerged as more of a tougher guy. No more running away.
Then I remember this guy attacked Naito and left him laying. So
yeah. So maybe this is time to repackage Tai Chi into being a little bit more of something. You know what I mean? All in all, it was an interesting match. Like I said, Guerrillas of Destiny, they seemed like the perennial winners, but who knows? They'll probably have that belt back in a couple months. Also of note was on day one of this, a terrific match for you fans to look up. Tomohiro Ishii challenging Shingo for the openweight title. About this match, man. It's the kind of match where you watch and you think you could feel their teeth rattle. They're hitting each other so freaking hard. Elio, what did you think of this match?
Oh, I love this match. I was glued to the screen from beginning to end.
Yeah, Ishii matches tend to be like that. So do Shingo matches, the two of them. And putting them together, holy crap, they beat each other like rented government mules.
What I really can't stand is, when they do the chops and the whole crowd does a Ric Flair woo every time they do the chops.
You heard woos in the Japan one? I didn't.
I don't mean Japan, but I'm saying
you're saying as wrestling fans?
Yeah. In general, it's just
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's keeping the spirit of Ric Flair alive. I've got nothing for you, buddy. I got nothing.
This match was good. They killed each other.
Really good stuff. And Nakanishi. Now, we didn't make a big deal of it on the site because basically you'd have to be a long-time New Japan fan to really know this guy back from his glory days.
Yep.
He's a wrestler who probably should have retired probably 5 years ago. I mean, me and Elio, from the last 2 years, we've been looking at some of his stuff. It's like, wow, that dude really shouldn't be wrestling anymore. He can barely move. He can barely – he's just kind of floating out there. When you see a really tired old wrestler who's just, there, that was Nakanishi. Now, they had a special tribute night, including a last match with him where, in old wrestling school tradition, he took the finisher of every one of his opponents before they beat him. So they laid him out good. And then people love this dude. they had such a celebration. You watched that on New Japan World, the Nakanishi retirement card. People, the audience, everybody in the locker room came out. Very well respected man. Now, we didn't really cover it too much or put any graphics up on it, just for the simple fact is we've only been covering New Japan for a little while, and we know a lot of you fans, especially not like English-speaking fans, probably have only been covering New Japan for maybe 3 years now as the Renaissance has been pushed into the English version. Guys like Nakanishi, he had his heyday way before we came along, and all we've seen is this old, broken down kind of dude. Same as like Tenzon. You read all this stuff about Tenzon being this super great wrestler. All I've known him be is this really old dude who can barely move and has these sad-looking Mongolian chops. And the strangest haircut, a flat top and a mullet together.
Right?
I'm not sure who told him that was a good idea, but they were wrong.
I have a question. What
Yes.
the heck? What is a Tenkozi? I know that's the team name, but like, what is that? Because it's Kojima and Tenzon.
Right.
So where do they get Tenkozi from?
Well, just because Koji and Cozy, like just a play on the words in Japanese.
Oh, okay. So it's a play on words.
Kojima,
Okay.
of Kojima. So it's like Cozy
Okay.
and Kojima. Yeah.
All
So
right.
and Tenzon. So Tenkozi. Yeah. Check it out if you like if you like to see old wrestlers getting ready for their retirement. I mean, there's nothing really great about the matches on that card, but it's a retirement card. That's what you expect, that sort of thing. The big news, of course, coming out of New Japan has to be this whole 2 weeks that they're not going to be having cards. They've canceled from March 1st to March 15th. All those events in there have been canceled due to concerns over the coronavirus, which is hitting Asia really badly right now. So,
Chris Jericho been waiting on this.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, he said it's just they just want everyone to live in fear because look, we had the West Nile virus, we got through that. We had the SARS, we got through that.
I'm really hoping that this is not a big thing. At least, I hope.
Yeah.
But it's starting to become legitimate. I don't want to get back into this, but like, yeah. It's.
No,
I think it might be something serious. So that's too bad about New Japan. It puts the Super Japan Cup back, the New Japan Cup, the New Japan Cup, which would crown a number one contender for an upcoming thing. That'll be pushed back now. That tournament will have to. I don't know when they'll make that up. So that'll be. I don't know what to say coming out of that.
Mm-hmm.
Folks, you know what? We had a good week of wrestling. There was some really fun stuff. And Elio, I want to just throw it out there, buddy. I took a look at your NXT UK report, and good stuff. And you know what, fans? Part of our job here on the audio section here is to really, talk about these things, just to point out what's good and bad that we see and our points of view. But also these writing columns also give you a chance a little more in depth of some of the shows. And we're hoping to catch you guys up to speed of what's the best wrestling out there.
Yeah, this is gonna be fun. I haven't done this in a while. Do it with the writing.
Yeah, and here's the thing. We love AEW, we love NXT, we love WWE, we love all of the companies. And what me and Elio here, our job is to scour through NXT UK and all of the other big independent wrestling things to find for you people the matches that are going to make you guys enjoyable and hopefully steer you away from some of the turds floating in the bowl. Okay? So I just want to say it's been a great week. We're enjoying. You know what, Elio? I didn't even realize this, and I think I knew this, and I forgot. Did you know our birthdays are 2 days apart?
I was aware of that. Yes.
Yeah. You kind of hinted at that the other day. And did I even wish you a happy birthday last year? I must have, right?
I'm sure you did. I can't remember.
Well, I can barely remember when my birthday is, anyways. But and then you've got.
I already know your birthday is 2 days before mine.
Right, and then we, Tony Diaz just celebrated his birthday. So the wrestling, the POV boys, we're all getting close to birthdays here, So, fans, we want to thank you guys for all tuning in and listening to us. We want to thank Ant for joining us now on a regular basis. covering all the AEW and the hot topics. And as he gets more boned up and watching MLW and NXT, he'll hopefully jump in there and start giving his point of views on some of the stuff we're watching too. Elio?
Yes, sir.
It's been a good show talking with you this week. I want to send a special thank you to all of our friends across the world. You're all wonderful. You've all been downloading and listening to our shows. And this week, I want to say a special hello to all of our friends in New Zealand and Australia, way down there in the South Pacific, who've been following along and following our shows. Thank you guys very much. We love you all. And we're not neglecting all the other people. We love all you fans all across North America, South America, Asia, Europe. Hell, we know there's Antarctic penguins who've been watching the feed. All I can say to you guys are and eat fish. Anyhow, Elio,
Yes,
say goodbye to the good people.
all right, listeners, we will talk to you all next week.